Let's say there is a heaven and everybody gets in. Everybody. Everybody gets in. And everybody has to have an interview, an entrance interview with Jesus on the way in. They have to discuss their lives, how they used their talents. Jesus already knows, but everyone has to make an accounting of how they used their talents. So, James, I noticed that the native man, Mark, oh, damn. So, James, Jesus asks, I noticed that Mark got jumped yesterday in the park. No, he got jumped somewhere, was hospitalized, an elderly native man. All his papers were stolen. Everything was stolen, his money. He slept behind the department store in only his jacket. It was 20 degrees. Don't worry, James, you're going to make it into heaven. But explain to me, how did he have no support, James? How did he sleep behind the department store in 20 degrees in only his jacket? Well, Jesus, I didn't know, James here says. Well, why didn't you know, James? Or why hadn't you made sure that there was support for such an individual? Well, I had my own concerns, Jesus. I mean, I've got to have a house. Well, okay, James. How big a house? How many rooms? Well, a lot. So many, James, that you don't have time, that you don't have a lot of time to take care of such issues? That in fact, you can't devote the bulk of your life to taking care of others instead of spending the bulk of your life taking care of yourself? You had described yourself as a follower of mine, James. I don't understand, James. How are you following me if you don't spend all of the time except that for basic food, except that for basic clothes? How do you explain that you were following me, James, if you didn't follow me, James? I wouldn't want to have that conversation. The one James here knows. I wouldn't want to have that conversation. I'd rather not get into that heaven than sit down with Jesus face to face, eyeball to eyeball, and have that conversation. And why do I care to realize that? Because it is a goad for me. I'm not glad of that notion that I've just shared with you. So that I can avoid having that conversation. I'm glad I have that perception because it's a cattle prod to me to push me out of my comfort zone out of my addiction to comfort, out of my addiction to safety, out of my addiction to being popular in man's world, into the world where life is, Jesus' world, his Father's rules, Jesus' rules, Jesus' example. I want to be like him. And devices like I just shared help me escape the clutches of this insane, addictive, selfish, joyless, lifeless world of man, rules of man, back into my Father's kingdom. The set of rules that were written on my soul by God before I was born, that I have let man strip me away from, mankind strip me away from, robbing me of the joy that every young child has before we do that to them.